Repugs are rushing and are failing to try to save the GOP control of the U.S. Senate. They spent $20 million in deeply conservative states that have become unexpected battlegrounds as a surge of small dollar donations gives the Democrats the upper hand in states likely meant they're likely to make or break the Senate majority. As 45's re-election position continues to deteriorate amid his mishandling of the coronavirus pandemic, the GOP is watching Democrats. The GOP is watching Democrats seize the lead in Senate races they once hoped to win and turn states previously seen as safe for repugs into heavily contested battleground states. The Democratic chances um, The Democratic chances of winning the Senate and seizing complete control of the federal government are higher than at any point in this election cycle. The trend line, the trend line is bad for these guys, says J.B. Porish, who's the like basically the supposed president of the Senate Majority PAC. The major super PAC backing Democratic Senate candidates in my world. There have been a lot of down polls in the past few weeks. Democrats have long been confident of victory over incumbent squatters in Arizona and Colorado, and the national strategists in both parties now agree that the main GOP senator, dumb skank Susan Collins, is unlikely to survive a challenge from her Democratic State House Speaker Sarah Gideon. I'm not sure who that is offhand. Not by face anyway. Repugs have also been increasingly nervous about the standing of North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis through a sex scandal involving his Democratic opponent has allowed Tillis to go on the fence in what has been a stable race. The GOP holds a 53-47 Senate majority seat, and the high likelihood that Repugs will oust the Alabama Democratic Senator Doug Jones on Election Day next month means Democrats need to at least defeat at least four incumbent Repugs to basically gain control of the Senate from Majority Leader Moscow Mitch. Repug Repug hopes of retaining their majority now rest on sweeping four races in a trio of states that both parties agree are toss-ups, which Montana, Iowa, and Georgia are at least three of them, and also somehow snatching victory from the jaws of defeat in one of the four states that now lean toward Democrats. At the same time, the television ad buys from both parties over the past 2 weeks make clear the solidly solidly repug states of Alaska, Kansas, and South Carolina are now places for Democrats to pad their majority in the event of a blue wave election. Democratic super PACs have booked $15 million in advertising in the three states, while repugs have reserved only $20 million. A top GOP operative charged with keeping control of the Senate acknowledged the difficult political environment and said that large donations from major repug donors were keeping races competitive. The Senate Leadership Fund, a super PAC controlled by allies of Moscow Mitch, has basically $126 million in the bank. The political environment is as tough as I've ever seen it. We have repug held seats under siege, and Democrat candidates have a huge financial edge, said Stephen Law, the group's supposed president. Thanks to our record breaking fundraising, we are keeping the fight to defend the Senate majority competitive. Repugs had hoped the vacancy of the Supreme Court created by the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg last month would fire up the party's base, but so far the most direct impacts have been harmful to the party. The Maine's Senate race already had begun to tilt toward Gideon, and anything reminding voters of the dumb skank Collins votes for the past 45 judges was destined to hurt her further. Gideon almost immediately went up with ads attacking Collins for judgeship votes and linking her to Moscow Mitch. After approving 181 judges nominated by 45, Susan Collins' record is clear. A Mayo narrator says in one of the ads, "She's not for you anymore. She never was." At the same time, Collins needed to clarify her own position on when and whether she would support voting a Supreme Court nominee, which only reinforced Democrats' portrayal of her as more calculating than concerned. They've been trying to frame her as a wishy-washy, and she's been helping them. It just looks like she's waffling again, said Toby McGrath, who's a former top aide to independent Maine Senator Angus King. For the past few weeks, I've thought that this has become Sarah Gideon's race to lose. Collins has amped up her attacks on Gideon, requesting her credentials as a Mainer. But public polling indicates little damage has been done, and a plurality of Maine voters still have a positive view of the Democrat. Repugs initially hoped the Supreme Court vacancy and the subsequent nomination of this dumb skank Amy Coney Barrett, while endangering another dumb skank Collins, would engage conservative voters in other states and provide a boost to incumbents, including the Montana Senator Steve Daines and Iowa Senator Joni Ernst. But there has been zero indication of a boost for the Repug candidates, even in the red states. But we're not seeing any partisanship saving them in Montana or Iowa yet, Porish said. Meanwhile, the Democratic Senate candidates across the country are raising unheard of sums in the wake of Ginsburg's death. Three top Democratic candidates, which are Colorado's John Hickenlooper, North Carolina's Cal Cunningham, and Iowa's Teresa Greenfield, all have announced raising more than $20 million in the third quarter, which shattered records. In Alaska, independent candidate Al Gross, who has the backing of National Democrats, raised over $9 million, which was more than the $7.2 million the United States spent to buy Alaska in the 19th century. Gross is challenging the Repug Senator Dan Sullivan. Small dollar Democratic donors have had the biggest impact in South Carolina, where the Democrats' loading of the Repug Senator Lindsey Graham has made the race competitive. Graham, who over the course of the past 4 years has evolved from moderate dealmaker to 45's nutlicker, is facing a stiff challenge from Democrat challenger Jamie Harrison. Harrison has raised about $30 million through the first 6 months of the year, and strategists say he may match that sum in the third quarter. That financial power has enabled Harrison to run an unprecedented number of ads, enhancing his own image as a moderate who grew up out of poverty, and damaging Graham as an untrustworthy flip-flopper. New Wexler, who's a former executive director of the South Carolina Democratic Party, said Harrison was taking advantage of distrust in the incumbent, enabling him to win over a large share of white voters than the typical Democrat in the state. There's some moderate repugs in South Carolina who don't trust the maggot Lindsey, Wexler said, and there's some conservative repugs who don't trust the gang of eight Lindsey. Beyond South Carolina, Senate leadership fund has also announced the multi-million-dollar ad buys in Alaska and Kansas. In all three states, the super PAC is hoping its millions, provided mostly by large donors, which include casino magnate Sheldon Adelson, private equity CEO Steven Schwartzman, and banking heir Timothy Mellon, can offset the Democratic candidates' financial advantage. The problem is candidates are guaranteed lower television advertising rates than super PACs under federal law, so most Democratic dollars are going further than Repug ones. The Repugs' brightest spot at the moment is in North Carolina, where a sex scandal has rocked Cunningham's campaign in the past week. Leaked sexual text messages between Cunningham and a woman who is not his wife prompted the Democratic challenger to admit an affair. Before the revelation, Repugs were becoming less confident in Tillis's ability to defeat Cunningham, who's a military lawyer and former state senator, but they are now arguing that the affair undercuts Cunningham's character-focused message and cripples his appeal to crossover voters. Senate Leadership Fund began airing an ad about his scandal earlier this week. The U.S. Senate race in North Carolina has been dramatically and permanently altered, not by sex, but by the hypocritical lack of judgment and truthfulness now fully on display by Cal Cunningham. Tillis's consultant, Brad Todd, wrote in a memo released Thursday that this unfolding episode destroys the foundation of Cunningham's campaign by demonstrating that he cannot be trusted at any level. So far, however, there is no evidence in public polling that the scandal has significantly shifted what has long been a race in a politically polarized state. A Democratic group tracking the campaign said its surveys show higher voter awareness of the scandal, but almost zero impact. Repugs are hopeful that new developments, like the Army Reserve announcing an investigation into Cunningham, will keep this story alive. Repugs do have a backup plan. However, Senate Leadership Fund also has invested $10 million in boosting John James, who's a businessman and veteran, challenging the Democratic Senator Gary Peters in Michigan. While most polling shows James trailing, the Repug internal polls have him outperforming 45, especially with independent voters. Repugs hope a James upset can allow them to block the Democratic control if the election turns out closer than expected. So if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, Ryan Van Wyk, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And thanks for listening.